Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of CroomTalk. Today we are here with the vibes. I'm here with Shane. We're going to chat it up a little bit and just kind of see where conversation takes us.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I'm definitely pumped to be here. This is my second time on the pod already, so I'm 2 for 3 right now.
Yeah, we did a little vlog that kind of was a throwaway, but we'll definitely redo it again, where Shane also made a very, very successful display of grit.
You did too, though. We all did.
I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, we all did, except our good buddy Chris, as usual.
Yeah, he didn't go missing this time. He just left. We did a wing challenge, hot wings challenge, and we're gonna have to do it again.
Yeah, which is not cool, but you got to do it.
It is what it is. So I guess look forward to that. That'll be happening soon. So other than that, Shane, how's the day going?
Good, man. Good. I'm in a pretty unique season of my life, but I'm grateful, definitely grateful, and I'm happy to be here again and talk a little bit about your story and what you've been through. I feel like I've been there from the beginning-ish of your photography, at least.
Yeah. I'm actually interested to see your perspective on questions you want to ask me, because like if I were to write down my list of questions compared to yours, I feel like they'd be so much different.
Probably, yeah.
But that's why I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm here.
But before we get into this, shout out to Jody Fortson, who just won his second Super Bowl.
Oh, man, yeah, that's awesome, dude. Congratulations, dude. It's great.
Coming from Buffalo and being successful, there's only a few people who have made that adjustment in their life to be successful coming from Buffalo, let alone to come out of South Park High School. No disrespect, but I mean, I'm sure there's other people like me who went to South Park High School because they couldn't get into the high school they wanted to get into. So, I mean, just that alone is a testament to growing up and just knowing you wanted to be successful and doing it. And a lot of people lack that and use being from Buffalo as an excuse, and you took your position and excelled in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one thing to even like be in the NFL, but to be able to win 2 Super Bowls. Don't get me wrong, dude. I definitely want you to come to the Bills, but to be able to play with Pat Mahomes, that's awesome.
Yeah. So shout out to you, man. Keep
Yeah.
doing your thing, man. Don't let nobody tell you any different. And if you're in Buffalo hating on Jody, which I know a lot of you are.
Why? How? Why and how are you hating on him?
People are just weird, man.
Brother, man.
People hate to see people successful, and I feel like that's such a toxic trait that a lot of people unfortunately have.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Definitely feel that. Get right into it and talk a little bit about what you've been through. So I guess we could start with like how like your introduction, like how were you introduced to photography?
I mean, I'd say when I was younger, I had a group of friends. I used to skateboard when I was younger, and we would always have like cameras and try to make skate videos and edit them on Windows Movie Maker. And I always enjoyed the creative aspect of taking something, a visual, just an average visual, and trying to make it as like cinematic and different and edited as possible, just to kind of create texture to simple things. So I always enjoyed being creative in that aspect. I haven't had a camera for a while, but I grew up like that. And there was one day, probably I'd say like 8 or 9 years ago at this point, I was in Target, and there was a Pentax K50 camera that was like an $800 camera, and it was on sale for $200. So I bought it. It was like a display mount or whatever. I was bodybuilding at the time, and one of my best friends is still bodybuilding, but I was like, dude, let's just go take some pictures at the gym. So I went and just kind of messed around with the camera. Didn't really know how to use it, to be honest, but just kind of like let my camera do its thing. I have a lot of great pictures from that little photo shoot we did, and a lot of shitty ones, probably more shitty ones than there were good ones. But the ones that did turn out, they were actually pretty dope. And the feedback I got from just those little pictures were like, we should do this sometime, like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, listen, all I did was just buy a camera. Like, I'm not trying to do this for a living. I don't, so that's kind of just how that started. And then from there, one of my best friends, he played semi-pro, and he was like, dude, just come to my football game this Saturday and take some pictures. So I'm like, all right. So I went and just like took pictures. I had a super close lens. So like the only thing I could really take a picture if I wanted to take a good picture would be like the distance between you and I right now. So like as far as a football game, I can't really get in depth and reach the plays as far as like the camera and the lens I had. But just from that, the pictures that I took that day, the response I got from like all the kids on the team was like something I've never felt before. Like, not necessarily saying it being appreciated, but just like like, dude, that was sick, like these are so dope. And it's just like, I'm just getting into this. And like the feedback that I got from that was almost like a high. So as I took a couple more pictures during games, I'm like, how do I get better? So like the next step to me was like, oh, I need to buy a bigger lens so I can be able to get a little closer and take a lot more in-depth pictures. So I invested in another lens, and then probably for the next 2 years following that, I went to like every game of semi-pro in Rochester, Syracuse, everywhere with this team, and just documented everything and just kind of fell in love with it. And honestly, if they didn't love what I was doing, it probably wouldn't have worked out for me, because that was the reason I wanted to continue doing it, because they were happy with it. And just seeing like people use your work to post on like social media was one thing that was new to me, and it was cool because it's like I'm giving people like a vision to kind of talk shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like confidence.
yeah,
There's like a sense
so
of confidence there.
like seeing people post a picture that I took, and like the way that it would be embraced or like vocalized through their vision, but at the end of the day it's my vision too. It was just super cool to see. So that's like the reason I kind of just kept rolling with it.
Yeah, man, that's amazing, dude. And I remember like bits and pieces of, at least of the semi-pro. I remember going out to a few games out there, and then we even did like South Park and Little League and stuff like that. But what was wild to watch was obviously you go from semi-pro, pretty much like everything in between. You did high school, Little League, and I remember doing like photo shoots just for like couples and Christmas and stuff like that. But then it's like now you get to a point where you're working with people in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So that was amazing. I remember it even like starting as someone from like the Bills practice squad, and then going on to like, oh, like, Jordan Poyer used one of my pictures and stuff like that. So like what was that like for you to be able to start working with players in the NFL?
Definitely humbling, because one thing that, you know, I feel like 90% of people in this world do, like if you are anywhere near a professional athlete, it's kind of like you kind of freak out, because it's like, oh my God, like an oh my God thing. And the way that I went into that was trying to not do that, because I feel like that's the way you can separate yourself from a lot of people, is if you just, be a human to these guys. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people have issues with athletes, is they think that they're robots. Like they're just like win for me, play for me, and when you don't win, fuck you. And I think that's the problem with a lot of things these days. So my goal going into trying to develop those relationships or build those relationships was just humanizing. Like, like every time you're around these guys, everybody who's around you is like, oh, can I get a picture? Can I get an autograph? Instead, it's just like, bro, how's your day going? Or something like that,
Yeah, treat them like people.
Yeah, and I feel like that's one thing that definitely opened a lot of doors for me, and made me respected and trusted to be around and help document a lot of those things.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, because even I remember when it all first started happening, you were really big on that too, of like, because even like I've had the the privilege of being around some of them myself, and there's always kind of like a little bit of a pep talk of like, dude, like just be cool, man, like don't act like they're whatever, but like they're people, just be cool, and everything will be fine. So yeah, dude, that's awesome for sure. But was it like when in that time period, because it happened pretty fast, I felt like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your perspective is different, but it happened pretty fast. So when in that time period, or was it a little bit after, were you like, man, I'm good at this, and like people like what I do, maybe this is the career path I should take?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, it's kind of like a blur, but I would say there was a time period where I was doing everything I was doing, whether it was like family photos on the side for something. You're asking about like the athlete aspect, or just photography in general?
I mean, whenever it really was, honestly, because like, was it even before you kind of, I guess, blew up, became popular, or yeah, like, was it maybe, oh man, my friends and family really like me taking pictures?
Well, I mean, I guess it's something because, I feel like obviously when everybody gets into something, they're never as hungry as they were when they first started. So it's
Sure.
like once you kind of like put your feet into a pool of things you want to do and your goals, and then you start to kind of check them off the list, I feel like with a tendency, a lot of people get comfortable.
Okay.
Which, I feel like derails people and their vision to continue to grow, because people are so comfortable in the situation. And I feel like that honestly happened to me. I don't know. I couldn't tell you exactly. I'd probably say 2018 because like at that time, like in order for me to, at least for myself, what I felt like I needed to do to improve was to get a better camera. So I was using a Canon 80D, which is a crop sensor lens, which I mean you can easily be successful with. But I wanted a full frame camera. I wanted to be better at low light. I wanted to have a faster camera, and that camera was very good for everything I needed it to. But the only way to improve was to get a new camera. And the thing that I think changed, I would honestly say the person that changed my whole vision and revamped, I don't even want to call it a career, but my job would be Jordan Phillips. Like as soon as Jordan Phillips got here, you know, like I feel like me as a person, I want to know who these people are coming to represent my team. So like the first thing I did was go on his Instagram, and I seen he had a photography Instagram. I think it was Don't Blink or something like that. Hopefully I'm not wrong, but he was super huge into Sony, and that was like a thing that I wanted to dabble into was Sony, but I never pulled the trigger because I honestly couldn't afford it. So I just remember reaching out to him because I'm like literally at the point where it's just like this shit is just I'm not enjoying my job anymore, and I just reached out to Jordan. I'm like, dude, how do you like the Sony, bro? Because like I've never had a conversation with him. He has no idea who I am, anything. Like he literally has been in Buffalo for probably a day and a half. So I hit him up. I'm like, dude, how do you like the Sony, man? He's like, dude, I fucking love it. I mean, he didn't say fuck, but he said, dude, he's like, dude, I love it. And I'm just like, dude, I've been trying to like get into something different, man. Like I said, never met him, never spoke to him a day in my life. The next thing he said was, do you want to use it?
Oh.
And I'm like, dude, you don't even know me. He's like, bro, I'll let you use it at the next game.
Yeah.
So you were there. You were there when he came out to me and gave me his camera.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I'm like, literally, like, just slapped him up. And he gave me, I think he had a Sony A7R3 or 4. I don't remember, but it's the 49 megapixel camera, which is 4 times as many megapixels as I had on my camera. And he just let me use it. Didn't ask any questions or anything. So, he let me, I think I had his camera for probably a month. And I just took advantage of having his camera. I did everything, any type of photo shoot or taking pictures or anything, because I felt like I was now in a position to grow because I can take a better quality picture, and like that just lit a fuel for me. And honestly, like where we're sitting today, like the hundreds of pictures that are on my wall, probably I'd say 95% of these pictures I took on Jordan Phillips' camera in that 4 weeks that he gave me his camera, and that like they're fucking phenomenal photos. And if without these photos, I feel like I said, I don't want to call it a career, but like the success that I've had, it probably wouldn't exist. So like even having the studio, like I give all the credit to having the studio to Jordan Phillips. Like, and that's why like I try to tell him like I can't wait for him to see all this shit, because I mean he's on my wall obviously more than anybody else's too, but it's like this wouldn't exist if all he could have did was ignore my DM, and I would have never felt that flame again. And I feel like that's probably the biggest part of me changing any type of perspective I had in this job career.
Yeah. Definitely glad he's back in Buffalo too on our D line. Yeah, I remember that. I actually miss those days, man. When we would go to like the games in the front row, then hit up Applebee's afterwards. I miss those days for sure. Yeah. I remember that. Did you already have like some relationships with players by then though?
Yeah.
Because I almost feel like I don't remember being totally shocked that happened.
Yeah, no, because I think I started in 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first person I ever really like talked to on any type of level was Jordan, and it was the interaction with that was super funny. So I think it was like the first day of training camp, and this is actually why I call myself Croom Photos. So I had a photography Instagram called Croom Photography, but it was private because I would edit a lot of my photos on Instagram just because it was super accessible, and the Instagram was private just because a lot of photo shoots I didn't want to put out there. So everything on there was private. So when I went to training camp, I took a bunch of photos and I wanted to share them with the players as far as just like posting them and tagging them, but I didn't want to do it on my personal Instagram. So I'm like, let me just make a temporary Instagram, and then I'll delete my Croom Photography one tomorrow, and I'll make this new one that I'm going to create, Croom Photography. So in the meantime, I'm just trying to think of like what I could do. So I'm like, I'll just call it like Croom Photos or something. So then I did that, and that's where I started putting the pictures. And there was a photo I took, and I only had a 300 millimeter lens, and I probably took this photo from probably like, I'd say 180 yards. It was just a dude walking in a tank top after practice, and Poyer gets super fucking tan in the summer. And from my perspective, I thought it was Tyrod. So I posted on Instagram, I'm like, Tyrod Taylor, last one off the field at practice. So whatever, I drive home from Rochester, and I get home and I get a DM on there, and it's Jordan Poyer, and he's just like, yo, just so you know, like, that's me right there. And I was so fucking embarrassed, but I'm just like I'm like trying to think about how to use my dark sense of humor to make this funny. So I'm like, oh shit, my bad, bro. I'm like, dude, I'll definitely be at training camp tomorrow. I'll take a bunch of pictures of you, but I'll at least tag Tyrod on at least 5 of them. And like, we kind of laughed about it, whatever. And my Instagram was literally just like blank. I had no pictures of myself. There was no, like, you would not know who I was. I was just a guy with a camera who could be a ghost for all anybody knows. So the next day at camp, I'm along the fence and he's coming along signing autographs. And then he gets to me and he's like, yo, do you want an autograph? I'm not, man, I'm fine. How's everything going? He's like, yo, it's like, are you Croom Photos? And in my head, I'm like, what? And then at the end of the day, like, I'm not at the end of the day, but like in that moment, I'm like, fuck yeah, I am. I went home and I said, Croom Photos, it is. Like, Jordan Poyer made that a thing.
Dude, shout out to Poyer. Unbelievable athlete, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember the training camp days, too. Those were fun. We'd always get garbage plates.
Yeah.
I miss that more.
Shout out to The Rock.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I miss that more than anything. Dude, yeah. I remember that live. I remember that in time, that happening, and you telling me that story. You've done a lot of cool stuff with Poyer.
Yeah. No, Poyer is such a great friend of mine, and like the amount of things that we've gotten to do behind the scenes, like, it's just mind blowing.
Yeah. So to kind of piggyback off that a little bit, what do you think is the coolest thing that you've done as a photographer?
I mean, there's some definitely some mental savings that definitely helped me out. One of my favorite things that I feel I get to do or got to do is work with Harrison Phillips, because the group of kids, his playmakers, kids with developmental differences, I just fell in love with working with those kids, and the times that we got to work with those kids would be, around like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and that's just like, such a mental place for a lot of people. A lot of people may be going through some things at those times, and unfortunately, I think it was last year, I was in a very, 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 very bad place, and I just remember like that date being on the calendar and not looking forward to anything more than that day, because like I would go there and just to see, I'm not trying to get emotional, but just to see like just how happy those kids are without having to ask any questions, like, and just to just be so just passionate about being there. And like I learned that from Harrison too. Like, I learned so much of like just who he is as a human being, and like the things he showed me, especially how to like interact with these kids, and how happy they were with everything. Like just the simple things like a high five or like a hug, and like we're playing kickball, we're wrapping presents, we're giving out gifts, and it's just like such an overwhelming experience that like you can't even put into words like what that would do for somebody who wasn't in a good mental place.
Yeah. Dude, and I mean, not to like get political or anything, but it kind of aggravates me that he hasn't won the Walter Payton Award yet.
Yeah.
What he does in the community is amazing. And, I still, even like a lot of times, like maybe a little petty, but if like a player leaves Buffalo, I usually like unfollow him on Instagram or something. But I kept him.
Yeah, Harrison made the cut.
He made the cut. He is a good dude, man. He really is.
There's another instance of me doing a job that benefited me as far as mentally, and actually changed my life. And I actually got to explain this to him in person. And, so Jeremy Kelly is a West Seneca native, played in the NFL as well as the CFL. Phenomenal man, very motivational guy, just very dedicated to his craft, ever since he was young. And he wanted to go back to his high school, West Seneca West, to do a motivational speech, and he wanted me to film it. So I go into that day as it's just a job. I'm just there. All I got to do is press record on my camera, make sure my audio is good, and just capture the day. That's all I had to do. So as I'm there, he's just talking, doing his thing. And then the more he's talking, one thing he said was, there's hundreds of kids in this room right here, but my goal is to just reach one. I looked at it as like why, you know? And then he just continued to say, like, he just brought up these situations that you like a lot of people have in life.
See, whenever self-doubt comes into play, whenever negativity comes into play, whenever cynical thought comes into play, we got to change the channel.
Like, you know, think about how many times like you get out of character. Like, obviously, let's say you're upset or mad about something.
more than I would like to, probably.
The things that you want to do in that mental state, but at the end of the day, if you take yourself out of that situation to look at it, like, is there any way I could change the outcome of this situation? And 90% of the time, you can't. It already happened, and you can't change it. So, you know, one thing he was preaching was to control the controllables. Like, and there'd be so many situations, like, because you've been with me and you know how much of a hothead I am. And it's just like, you know, a lot of those situations, like, you can't control the things that happen. So your actions based off those situations can completely change your life just based off you trying to control the controllables.
Yeah.
Or not controlling. I said that wrong. But like the situations that you can't control, you're getting completely taken out of who you are as a person and reacting different ways that could affect you for the rest of your life, depending on the situation. And, you know, it just woke me up so much because at that point of my life, there were so many things that I had going on and so many things that I would let dictate my happiness that I couldn't control. And I would waste so much energy on it, even though there's nothing I could do about it. So after he explained that to me, it changed my life. Like it completely changed my life. And now when I look at that day, like him saying he only needs to hit one, I was the one that he reached to. Like, and I was just there for work.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting for sure.
And that completely changed my whole outlook on life.
Yeah. That's awesome. Like, shout out to him for doing that too, because especially in the younger kids, like, that is such a amazing lesson to learn at a young age. 'Cause I mean, it's almost, it kind of seems like it's a little bit like common sense, but really it's like, if you're not, it's not, I guess. And if you're not taught that, I went through my life just personally, like, very hot-headed and stubborn like that, and really hurt. And I wish that I could have controlled a lot of different things in my life, and I'd be in a completely different spot. So that's awesome, especially for him to hit you like that too, when you were just there to work. Like, you never know who's in the room, man.
Yeah.
But like, so you've worked with a lot of really cool people, really cool people. And it's been awesome to watch that too. And it goes from like semi-pro to like high school, like, and I remember like to the practice squad of the Bills. I'm like, next thing you know, there's your Facebook pictures, you and Josh Allen, who's the GOAT. Not even gonna debate it. But if you were to pick, like, who do you think is your favorite person that you've worked with?
I don't really like that question because then that just kind of like puts people into, you know, categories as far as like likeliness.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, I've developed some phenomenal relationships and I'm very close with a lot of these guys now on an extremely personal level, not even a business level, just to, you know, I feel like develop these relationships. The things that it's done for my life is like motivated the shit out of me. Like not necessarily like a financial standpoint because, you know, not necessarily saying it's unrealistic. It's just not necessarily a logical way to think about those situations, but just being around people and especially professional athletes, you know, they're so successful and the people around them are so successful and you get to meet all these successful people, and when you surround yourself with successful people, it opens up so many avenues for you to be successful. Like the amount of relationships that I've built through being in like the right places, especially with, you know, a lot of the guys, like I've also made some phenomenal friendships along the way. And it's just like, you know, I look at it like this, like, you know, my Instagram is full of people who, you know, I support and follow, and the way that that's grown for me as far as the people who I get to watch be successful has just changed my life because I get to wake up every day and see my friends be great. So like, how can that not rub off on me?
Yeah. That's stuff interesting too, and kind of touching back on like the amount of different type of people you work with, because I always thought that was cool too. It's not just like the athletes. 'Cause I've even been with you when you've worked with like rappers, people from ESPN, some like players' agents, like that. I think that is so cool. Just like the variety of the types of people.
That comes with the relationships too. Like I open my Instagram all the time, and there'll be a DM, and I'm like, "Who is this?" And I'll look into who it is, and it'll be like somebody from ESPN asking if they can use some content, or somebody who owns this company who's working with this athlete, and it's just so cool to be a part of.
Yeah, I've done photo shoots too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
those are probably your best pictures. But actually, like, obviously those are probably the ones of me are the best photos. But like, do you have like a favorite photo that you took?
I have a few. I think my all-time favorite though will be the picture of LaShawn McCoy that's behind me. I don't know if you can see it in the frame. The one that's in the frame with his autographed college jersey. That's probably my favorite. I'll put it up on the screen regardless. But it's just one of my favorite photos. It was probably one of my first favorite photo, but just like the emotion that it captured and just the realness and just the clarity of it was honestly what excited me, because that was at a point where I was like kind of just learning to get off of auto mode on my camera. So like the fact that I like kind of created that image was super satisfying to me. I definitely would probably put that number one. That'll probably always be my favorite photo. I would say also maybe Poncho meeting Harrison for the first time, because that photo actually ended up becoming something so surreal for a lot of people. And just to see like what I captured and what it became. And, obviously I got to, develop a relationship with Ezra as well. Like such a beautiful person, and just to have that documented, and the things we got to do with it before he unfortunately passed away were some things that I'll never ever forget. So I definitely would put that up there.
But you also, I know it's not a picture per se, but you were the first person to get the video of Josh Allen and Diggs meeting, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was a very, very cool experience. So I've got to work with Steph when he was with the Vikings, and Josh never met him. So I just remember conversating with Josh, like, because we were all working out at Pete Bommarito's in Florida, and he's like, I don't know when Steph's going to be here, whatever. And, everybody parks in this parking lot, and has to walk down this alley to get to the facility. And then I just see a Ferrari pull up down the alleyway to the fence instead of parking the lot. I said, yeah, Josh, that's definitely Steph right there. So that was super, super cool. Like, such an organic reaction, especially the things that we were going through in that time of the world. And just to see everybody come together and what it became was definitely something that I would never forget.
Yeah, definitely leave it to the Bills to do that, man. That's awesome. So, like, man, like, even like looking back at it right now, you've done so much cool stuff, dude. And it's been probably quite a journey. But do you have like a job that you did that was like just stands out as your favorite?
Like quality wise, or just?
I would say like memory. Like, man, were you ever caught up in a moment where like this is the most incredible thing that I've ever done?
I mean, I've been to be my work has put me in some different positions that I never expected to. Like, I went down to Florida this off season with Tywan Jones. He's friends with Amari Cooper, who just happened to have his birthday there. And I got invited with Tywan to go to Amari Cooper's birthday party, and I didn't know what to expect. It was a paid in full themed party, and I randomly had like one of my Mexico fits in there. So I'm like, all I need is a bucket hat. So we went and shopped around, got a bucket hat. I ended up going to this party with Tywan Jones, Trina, and Bruce Irving. And we're just in there, just surrounded by like half the NFL. Next thing you know, City Girls is performing on the stage. Kodak Black shows up. But it was just such a well orchestrated birthday party that like it was unbelievable. Like the whole entire set of Paid in Full was in there. Like Pips Cleaners, everything. And the only thing that there was to drink there was Clear and Dark Casamigos.
Oh man.
It was wild. He had everything. Like he rented cars that had like BBS rims on them. Everything old school.
That's
he had
insane.
he had like his face photoshopped as Mitch on the banners everywhere. It was insane.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely understand that being like one of your top memories for sure. Yeah. So I mean, looking back at the things that you've done, the things you've accomplished, starting from semi-pro, going into every almost like type of division of football that there is. And now sitting here, you have the podcast going, so many different things going on in your life. What are like some of your future goals? Maybe, short term, long term, whatever it is. Like what's the future looking like for you?
I just want to make it. Like photography is always going to be photography for me. If you tell me what you need and if I can't run my hand, we're going to make it happen. And as far as this podcast, my goal with this podcast is to open up avenues for people to express themselves. Obviously we had some very, very funny podcasts already, but like, once I get like these athletes on here, my goal is to humanize like athletes. Like obviously this podcast wasn't made for that. This podcast is made for me to open an outlet for creators, artists, athletes and stuff to just express who they are as an individual. Like if I can, from an athlete standpoint, if I can give it another name, I would call it outside the jersey or something like that context, because I'm not trying to talk about football, and I know athletes are tired of talking about football.
Yeah.
Like my thing is to just, I want to show these people to the world that they're humans as well. Like, you people think these athletes just wake up every day and have a good head on their shoulders and just work and have this great life because they have money, but nobody thinks about like the trials and tribulations or like the things they have going on behind the scenes, like losing loved ones, relationships, struggling with mental health. Like people don't ask those questions because people don't care. People just care about football. And I want to open up such a different avenue for people to just be themselves. And especially here, because Buffalo's so small and a lot of these guys get looked at as just athletes.
Yeah.
And I want to just open up a whole different realm. So like you can have like normal conversations with these guys. Like, oh, like, hey, good game or whatever. Like I want to just, like I want to know if you like to play video games, or if there's like a hobby you have, if you play instruments, or what are your passions, like, because everybody's just worried about football, and I want to shut that down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a big part of that too is Buffalo just values the Bills so much, and it really, I completely understand that, because we're definitely hungry for a Super Bowl, and the last year that Buffalo had, and like all that stuff, and I mean it's always been going through stuff. Like this isn't anything new. Like it's a, I don't want to say a tough city to live in, but it's some gritty stuff there. But yeah, dude, what like, so kind of touching on that and your goals and stuff like that. Like, is there something that's really keeping you like motivated to be able to get to that next level?
I'd say not being comfortable, like, living day by day, being where your feet are. That's one thing that I love to talk about, is being where your feet are. You got to live in the moment. I feel like a lot of people have such a tendency to not be where their feet are. They want to just, film everything and just not just put the phone down and just enjoy where you're at with the people you're with. And I just feel like the more that I can continue to do that, the more I'm going to be successful.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. That's great. Yeah, I know like we kind of talked about motivation and goals and all that stuff, but is there like maybe a certain like high level goal, like a dream that's like,
I mean, I would love to work for an NFL team.
Okay.
I mean, the window with the Bills is closed as far as I know, but I mean, I've tried so hard to work with the Bills that, like, that door kind of closed in my face. So, but I'm at the point where like that's such a dream of mine that like even if I go to shoot for another team, that's still high on my list. Like I can already picture myself like walking on the field and crying, because everything that I've ever done was for that. Like no matter who it's for, like that's just been the dream of mine.
Yeah.
That's why it's like, it's unfortunate that, we can't keep our team together because, cap space and whatever, but you better believe, where some of these athletes go, some of my friends go, I'm going with them.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like an advantage for you for maybe not. I mean, if that, it'd be sick to see on a NFL team, like working for a team, but you've gotten to be like so personal and stuff like that. And I think that's really great. And you've worked with players from the Bills, the Colts, like all over, and that's so cool, dude. But like another thing too that I've kind of wanted to talk about was I've noticed I mean, I'd hate to use the word copycats, but you were definitely like in a league of your own. Like it was just Croom Photos came out and everybody was hyped and this was so cool that you were doing all this stuff. And then like, you know, another person came out, started doing it. Another person came out. So like, what is maybe your view or like your opinion on what like the competition is starting to become in this like realm of photography and sports?
I mean, I would say it's good to see. It's good that, you know, people hopefully have the same passion that I do to do it. But as far as a competitive standpoint, like, I work hard. I mean, I'm not trying to go there, but I mean, I'd like to see somebody working harder than me.
Yeah, and I definitely being, you know, around you for so long, like know the sacrifices that you made too. And I know you told a couple of those stories on another podcast about traveling and only having, would you have like $5 or something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah, you made some major sacrifices.
Yeah,
Man.
but nobody can grind harder than me. That's one thing I know. Like people could try to keep up, but like the amount of things that I've had to do to get to this point, I wish someone would try to take it from me. You know, that's just where I'm at mentally with it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love to see everybody doing their thing, but I also don't worry about those type of things either because, like I said, you got to control the controllables. Shout out to JK for that one,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I'm doing my own thing. Nobody's doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, dude, that's a very good perspective too. Just being in like your own lane, not worried about what anyone else is doing. But yeah, and even like touching, you know, like you were like a personal trainer for a while and stuff like that. And that's where like we got close too.
Yeah.
It was like you trained me and I was in great shape. And you're a really hardworking dude, for sure. And you're really good at motivating people and keeping people in line. And that's like, I mean, there's tons of reasons why like I like being your friend, but you know, I was your friend before like Croom Photos blew up, and still I look at you the exact same way. And you've always kind of like pushed me to be better.
See, that's one thing that I feel like a lot of people, you know, whether you're either gonna mess with me or you're not, like, you know, because my thing is tough love. That's what I learned from being a personal trainer is like showing people any type of sympathy. I feel like is a weakness because then you're allowing somebody to get comfortable. Like just from a personal training standpoint, like listen, like this is what we're doing today, and like my goal for you is to look at it as if it's too hard and too much. And when you're going through it, even if you still feel that way, my goal is for you to continue to look at it that way. Like if you have to do sprints for another 30 seconds and I see you struggling, I'm not just going to make it 15 just because I feel bad for you. My goal is for you to be better, and I want people to be better more than they want themselves to be better. And I feel like that's one thing that burnt me out with personal trainings because I had so many shitty clients that weren't about it, that were just super undedicated and just wasting their time, wasting my time, you know. But like even for you, for an instance, like we had a goal and we blew it right out the fucking water, and we didn't ask any questions. There was no like why, like this is what we're doing. You know, you're in the back of the gym pushing my car around the parking lot and you didn't ask any questions.
Right.
You know, it's like, okay, high five, we're done. What's tomorrow?
Yeah.
And then you're there. Like a lot of people don't have that motivation. And I was never easy on you.
No.
I would drive by you when you would run to the gym.
Yeah.
Like I'm not fucking picking you up. Like if you want to be where you want to be, do it.
Yeah.
Show me. I want to bring out the best in people, and you know, it might feel like I'm a dick to a lot of people, but like I just want people to be better, and I want them to be better for them. And I feel like I'm so hard on people about that, and they break. Like there's so many people who aren't even my friend anymore, who just couldn't handle the level that they wanted to be at, but didn't want to put the work in to be there.
That's a very real thing in this day and age, man. I don't know. I think I've always kind of had like a little bit of a dog in me, man. Like, I don't know. I needed a change in my life, and you were there, dude. And it was beyond just even like, I mean, there was definitely times in the gym where I hated you for sure. Like, man, I'm not trying to do this, but like it was always like the conversations that we would have, because you would like pick me up sometimes to go to the gym, and like the conversations we would have and keeping me motivated and focused and just always wanting to be better. Would you say like 2% better?
2% better every day.
Yeah.
Because it's attainable. Like if you could think about the little things, like without being like literal, like, you know, the things that you can improve on every day. Like is such a small, especially 2%. Like the things you can make small changes on, especially if it comes to like a diet or something. Like, everybody just wants a snap of a finger. Everybody thinks everything's a light switch, and there's no longevity to stuff like that. That's why 2% better is every day is such a good way to look at it, because then you can make those small adjustments instead of taking the elevator. The 2% is like taking the stairs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, dude, and I'm thankful for it, man. Thankful for that period of my life, because that was, well, it would have been a couple years after my dad died. I was really lost and confused in life, man. So to have you there, and we've been boys since, honestly, really close. But
Should we hug right now?
no, we'll save it for after. So, not just photography, but maybe just somebody in life going through it, struggling, maybe trying to be an entrepreneur, whatever it is. Do you have any advice for them? Just for somebody coming up, man.
I mean, I'll definitely I'll say it from like a photography standpoint, because that's a question I get a lot of, but also it can attain to life too, because the thing I tell people all the time is like, everybody's like, oh, what can I do to be a better photographer or anything like that. I think the thing that people lack the most is trying to be themselves. Everybody's trying so hard to be somebody else. Like the thing that I love about photography is at the end of the day, there's no right way to do it. Like you have a vision, and that's your vision. Whether it's too bright for some people, too dark for some people, too noisy for some people, that's just how you look at it and how you want to be creative with it. Like that's why I hate, like YouTube. YouTube has so many, like, this is the way you have to do things, and people get so caught up on it, and it's so overwhelming. And I'm sure a lot of people just give up on it. I know so many people who bought cameras and never did anything with it just because like I just can't figure it out. But it's like if you have a vision. And you can look at life this way too. If you have a vision of your life, don't let anybody tell you you're doing it the wrong way, because that's your vision. Like as long as you know you're moving forward, especially trying to grow at what you're trying to do, then you're going to be successful. Even if it's just self-success. You don't have to be successful for other people. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are worried about too, especially with social media now. It's like social media is just like a, hey, look at me thing right now. And it's unfortunately been that way for a while, but the amount of people who aren't like happy with themselves, I think this world lacks, because once you find self-happiness in your life and you as a person, anything that comes after that is just a walk in the park.
Yeah. I would also kind of say too, like in my own perspective, because I've been doing music for a while and trying to make it and all that good stuff, but like you can't be afraid of trial and error either.
Oh, for sure.
And you can't be afraid to fail in it, because that's where like the lessons are. And like I'm sure like being a photographer, like you went through that so much of trial and error. Of maybe like the first football game you ever did compared to the last one you ever did was night and day. But yeah, man, it's been a wild journey, for sure.
So like another thing too, I would say, the most cliche quote of them all is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I can use a couple personal experiences just to use that perspective as well. Like I literally just explained to you how much the Harrison Phillips events meant to me. And if I were to rewind, the only way I developed that relationship was Harrison just got drafted here, and he was doing a meet and greet at this hot dog place in Grand Island. And I just decided to send him a DM like, hey, I do photography. Like, can I come and document your day? And his first question was how much? And my next answer was absolutely nothing. Like, I just want to create, whether it was create that relationship and just create content and just, we did that. And that was now look, like I literally can consider Harrison like a brother. Like the things that I've got to do with Harrison, and like not only did they change my life, but they made me who I am. And if I didn't take that chance or shoot that shot, like that wouldn't even exist. Like that's how it is. Like, even working with like Benny or like Conway, like, you're shooting your shot, whether it's with them or people who know them, like, listen, like this is what I have to offer. All I want to do is create. And that just opens up so many doors for people. And I feel like people have a tendency to just sit around and wait for things to happen instead of going to make them happen. Because the worst that's going to happen is you're going to either just get ignored or you're going to say no. But at the end of the day, you can't say you didn't try.
So with all that being said, like we've covered so much stuff here, and this story about you coming up, man, like what is next, dude? Like what is the next thing on the goals list for you? And
I mean, I'm excited to see where I could take this podcast. I mean, the things that I already have planned in the next 30 days and the people who they're with are already going to blow a lot of people's mind. And the conversations that are to be had, like, you know, one conversation I can't wait to have is with Jordan, because there's so many things that I want to tell him that I couldn't tell him as a man.
That's Boyer.
As far as, like, you know, his sobriety, and, you know, I was around it a lot of the time, and, you know, there's so many things I want to talk to him about that I've yet to have those discussions with, and I can't wait to have those conversations and just, you know, tell him how proud I am of him, and especially from being where he was. But I'm not going to get too into it, but, you know, those are the things that's next. I'm going to go down to Florida. I'm going to have so many podcasts lined up, and I just can't wait to share them with you. I might even open up a little segment of these podcasts to where I'll have some of the fans or people who are following along ask some questions. And I think that'll be cool, a little more interactive with you guys, because, like I said, I'm just getting into this, so I'm just kind of like making my ways through here. So, you know, I just can't wait to see where this goes, and I appreciate all the love and support from the beginning of this, you know, because it didn't necessarily have a direction, but I guess this podcast will kind of explain that to a lot of people. And, you know, I appreciate everybody. I appreciate Shane for coming through, dropping some great questions for me, especially to get to show you guys who I am. So I just need you to do 3 things: like, subscribe, and have a great day. Peace.
I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. Yeah.